You know, in Dungeons& and Dragons, we spend hours, maybe even days, crafting the perfect hero. We think about their skills, their personality, their epic backstory. But what if the most important story detail is the one we almost always overlook? Today, we're talking about starting gold, and how that simple number on your character sheet is actually the hidden key to their entire past. Seriously, think about it. You roll some dice, you jot down a number, you buy your gear, and then you pretty much forget all about it, right? But that number, it's so much more than just the cash you need for a long sword and some rations. What story is it really telling about who you were before the adventure began?
Most of us, and I've been guilty of this too, we treat starting gold as just another mechanical step in a checklist, but it's actually one of the very first narrative decisions you make for your character. It's this foundational piece that can shape who they are, where they come from, and what they value long before they ever step foot in a dungeon.
So, why do so many of us miss this awesome storytelling opportunity? Well, it kind of starts with how the rulebooks themselves teach us to handle starting wealth.
The official rules usually give us three main paths, right? You can just take the pre-packaged gear for your class, you can roll for a random pile of cash to go shopping with, or the DM just sets a flat amount for everyone in the party. Now these methods work, they're functional, but you see what they all have in common? They prioritize game mechanics over the story every single time.
And that means we need to start thinking a little differently. Because in a great story, money is never just money. It's a symbol for something much, much deeper. It represents power, security, or the complete and total lack of it.
This contrast really gets to the emotional heart of it. A character who starts out with a full coin purse, they probably come from a background of stability. They've known safety, they've had resources. But a character with just a few copper pieces to their name, well, they come from a place of struggle. Their whole worldview is shaped by scarcity, which probably makes them way more willing to take those huge, life-changing risks.
So this brings us to a really crucial check-in. Just take a look at your own character right now. You might have written this incredible backstory about being a penniless orphan who had to fight for every scrap, but you started with 150 gold pieces. Or maybe you're playing a duke's pampered child, but you have the exact same starting funds as the street urchin rogue. That little disconnect, it can pull you right out of the story.
And that disconnect leads to what I like to call the common table problem. In an effort to keep things fair, a lot of dungeon masters just give every player the exact same amount of starting gold. And look, it's well-intentioned for sure, but this simple decision can completely flatten the role-playing potential right from the very beginning.
This just illustrates the issue perfectly. You've got the noble, who has literally never wanted for anything in their life, and they somehow have the exact same net worth as the sailor who spent their life earning a meager wage on the high seas. It creates this logical gap that weakens the story before it even has a chance to start.
I mean, here's the classic example, right? If a huge part of your character's whole identity is a vow of poverty, then starting them with a small fortune fundamentally undermines that identity. The game's mechanics are actively fighting the narrative you're trying to build. It just makes no sense.
Okay, so what's the solution? How do we fix this? It's actually surprisingly simple. Instead of tying wealth to a character's class or some random roll of the dice, we tie it directly to the thing that matters most for their story, their background. We can break this down into three really straightforward tiers. Was your character struggling? Maybe they were an urchin or an outcast. Were they stable? A guild artisan or a soldier with a steady wage? Or were they privileged, a noble, an heir, someone who was just born into power? Each of these tiers comes with a starting amount of wealth that actually makes sense for that life story.
And see, this isn't about what your character can do as a class, it's about who they were before they became an adventurer. A fighter could come from any of these tiers, and their starting gold, and hey, even their starting gear, should reflect that. This approach makes your background choice feel meaningful from the very first session.
And for all you dungeon masters out there, this is where things get really, really exciting. Once you establish these different wealth levels in your party, you can use them as powerful and immediate storytelling tools.
Here's the crucial part. Money creates instant story. A character's financial situation has real, tangible consequences. It dictates whether they can afford a warm bed for the night or if they're sleeping in the stables. It changes how NPCs react to them. And most importantly, it gives the player an immediate emotional connection to their character's circumstances. Are they desperate for their next meal, or are they just flippantly tossing coins to beggars?
Just picture it. The party's rich noble might constantly be fending off pickpockets or getting exclusive invitations to the Lord's party. Meanwhile,
The struggling ranger might be treated with suspicion by the city guard or get turned away from the fancy magic shop. All of a sudden, the world feels more alive because it's reacting to who the characters are, not just what they can do.
And that's really what this all boils down to. For way too long, we've treated Starting Gold like it's an accounting problem, when we should have been treating it like a character's first chapter. It's a shorthand for their history, their values, and their place in the world.
So, the next time you sit down to create a character, don't just fill in a number and move on. Ask yourself what that number truly represents, because that one small detail, it can be the seed for your most memorable adventures. After all, the story of who your character becomes is always built on the foundation of who they were.